LLMs are a fundamental need of life. It will be a fundamental need of life today, tomorrow. Just like internet is a fundamental need of life today. I see AI automating menial tasks of life. AI doesn't have emotions. AI cannot express. AI can only simulate. And AI fundamentally, at the end of the day, is a computer program. It has access to what you give it access to. It is overhyped. It is way overhyped. Because at the speed at which it is growing, the hype will soon turn into reality. It is not very far away. Vaccine research, medical research would all be accelerated by significant margins thanks to AI. AI ushers in an era where knowledge is no more valuable. Understanding of application of knowledge is valuable. There is a huge gap between relevant and irrelevant information that is being taught to us. One of the most important skills that I believe is going to be very important, that is going to lay the foundation for what we know as future, is communication. No matter what you throw at me, no matter what boulder you hurl at me, I'll figure out a way to carve it.
When we talk about rich, deep demographic dividend, effectively means there's this strata of age of Indians who are in a very, very young bracket, and that's the future of Bharat. I have always been listening about it, I have always been reading about it, but today I have actually had that opportunity to meet a person in that demographic dividend bracket in my studio. We are in Bangalore on the Karmine Kompass, which is all about pivotal conversations. We have Shreyas Chandavarkar. Hi Shreyas, and welcome to the Karmine Kompass.
Hello.
Shreyas is just 18, but he's a founder of Superlative, right, AI, and he's going to talk a lot more about it. You know, you are not even from Bangalore. You're from a very small town, which is Shirali in Karnataka.
The coastal part of Karnataka.
The coastal part of Karnataka. Maybe you should start from there.
Yeah. So I was born and brought up in, like you said, Shirali. Both my parents are educated dentists, and they have two small practices in Shirali and then one in a neighboring village called Bhatkar. And that was basically how I was brought up, right? It rooted in fundamental values of society and so on and so forth. We have our mutt, which is the spiritual center for us in Shirali itself, which I used to frequent. And all of those factors mostly set the fundamentals of my, for lack of better words, fundamentals of my life's design that I'm using today.
Wonderful. And so you studied your 10th and your PUC, is it in Shirali? How did their education go about?
So I dropped out of school in my 8th, just when I was finishing 8th, and that was more to do with the fact that there was a COVID year. And when I dropped out of school, that was around the final exam of 8th. I had nothing to do, right? Just to give you some context, I had learned Python when I was actually 8 years old. And through a book that my mother had got called Computer Programming for Kids and Other Beginners, which taught you Python version 2. And I had learned it to a pretty good extent. And when this COVID hit, I thought might as well retry, because there were a lot of advancements that had occurred that I was not aware of, and so on and so forth. When I had learned Python, it was not the age of internet. I had learned it from a book. This time I had internet by my side, so I had access to said information. So I went online, free code camp, and many such courses I learned through Python basics and advanced and so on and so forth. And at the same time, regarding schooling, once I dropped out of 8th, I did my schooling of 10th through NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling, and then 12th also through NIOS. And I did not choose P, C, M or B. I do not come under any bracket of science, commerce or arts, because my choice of subjects are very varied.
And when you say varied, as in what kind of subjects you studied in those years, in your crucial years?
So here's the thing, I chose my subjects based on what I knew best, because I did not have the time to sit and study subjects that I did not know so well.
Correct.
Right? So I chose them based on what would I need practically in my future, because in CBSE also you have a varied subject choice, but then you don't get to select what you want to study, right? Because that's what the school can teach you. In NIOS that's not the case. You can select from any subject. So my 10th subjects were English, EVS, computer science, data entry operations, business studies, accountancy.
Wow.
And for 12th also they were on similar lines itself, where I did not stick myself to PCM or B, because none of those subjects would have held a lot of relevance per se in my future. And fundamentals I had because I studied in an ICSE school.
Correct. And what I believe is you're a linguist. How many languages till date?
7 languages.
Which are the ones?
English, Kannada, Hindi, which were taught in school. Konkani because it's my mother tongue.
Yeah.
And Marathi because it's very close to Konkani. Gujarati because I was in Gujarat for a year and a half / 2. And Sanskrit because of the environment of the mutt and so on and so forth.
He's just 18. I think let's remind ourselves of this. You know, AI, artificial intelligence, age 18, where even people are even get to know, even we at our age, we are still getting to know. At age 8, you are already in Python, where for an 8-year-old, Python is something else, right? The real Python. Yeah. But for you, not even a computer ahead of you or internet, let alone an internet, you read it through book, and that got you interested. How come?
Because it was fascinating. See, in traditional rather school of thought, or what thought process that your school instills in you, it is either one ratta maru, as in by heart it, right, where you just ingest knowledge and then vomit it out on a paper and then you forget about it altogether, right? That is one way to do about it. Or the other ways, you understand the topic and you have a ingrained understanding of it. But in either ways, everything that you learn is mostly theory. There is nothing that you put in practice. Python was one place where I could put in practice every single fundamental thing that I learned. As in everything that was written in the book, I could execute on a computer. The computer would show me that result. And then it was kind of self-entertaining because I could build small games and so on and so forth. That was one of the driving factors behind why I learned Python.
Okay. You know, whenever I have a guest on my podcast, normally I ask a question about how did you achieve this? How did this start? Normally he is a 30, 40, 45-year-old, and then they say, you know, when I was 20. But I'm pretty difficult to even ask you what sparked your interest in AI and at what age? Because you are at 18 now. So when did this whole thing start?
So when the COVID hit and I decided to relearn Python, and then I went into the depths, and thanks to Reddit, I found that there are dev communities online on Discord and various other communication channels. You can find them, and where there are ready people who are industry professionals who will guide you, right? And it is not something that takes them a lot of time. It is just something that they do out of the, for lack of better word, generosity of their heart, right? And that is where I got my advanced things in place, advanced concepts and all of that in place. After that, it came every time. Learning happened when it came to a stalling point, right? I had my advanced concepts in place. I had read from textbooks. I had completed the CS30 course, which is Harvard's computer science 30 course that was published online on YouTube. It is available still.
So what was that age, if I may ask?
That was 14, 15, something around that, right? And then I practically went on there and I said, you know what, could somebody give me work? I'll work for free. I just want to learn. Today's day and age, nobody wants to work for free.
Yeah.
Right? And even if they work for free, there's a good risk that they could steal the code. They could do a lot of harm that would result in a lot of problems. Finally, because I was persistent, there was one guy who reached out and said, you really want to work? I said, yes. Then he said, I'll give you work. And then that's
Was he from India?
No, he was from the US. So that started off my real, journey into coding per se, where I was able to actually implement all the advanced concepts I had learned, and at enterprise grade, at large scale systems, where I was not exactly the employee who did it, right? I just did it. So if, for example, if you're working at Google, right, I did it for you, you put it as your code, and thus it went on.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Because most people used to work with me not because I did not know the fundamentals and the knowledge that all of those people had, right? But what I had was that junoon, that enthusiasm, that no matter what you throw at me, no matter what boulder you hurl at me, I'll figure out a way to carve it, right? And that is what invited most people to work with me. And so I worked with a lot of industry professionals in such a manner. I did that for about 3 years. And once I was done with all of that, I was pretty equipped with my skills. I had worked on the cutting edge of, or rather what they used to call the bleeding edge of cutting edge, right? I still continue to do so. That is how I got my AI fundamentals in place, right? And it is a very rare and unique opportunity that I had to learn from all
So AI and blockchain together, is it?
See, blockchain came out of passion, right? It is a new way to store information. that was previously inaccessible, right? And in a way that is immutable, as in it cannot be changed, and once it is put online, it cannot be deleted either, right? So it was something that was very interesting to me. Blockchain is a technology, not cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
So that came out of interest, that was out of self-study and personal motivation, and AI came out of professional needs. I needed to work on a project, I had to learn that skill.
Okay. So was there a moment where you realized you think differently about machines or intelligence? Because you were just 8 and 14 and 18, milestone years for kids maybe playing video games. But for you, it was a different level altogether.
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, I do think when I started working on AI, my thought process on machines and how they fundamentally function changed very drastically. Because in AI, there are, just to simplify everything,
Yeah.
in AI, there are ways where you train ML models. There's supervised learning, there's unsupervised learning, under them there's reinforcement learning, and there's a lot of such techniques that teach you how an AI model predicts the output, right? Even as humans, right, what we know as neural networks in the AI is ultimately reproductions, code-based reproductions of how our brain functions, right? Where there is the whole architecture. I'm not going to get into the tech of it, right? So what we know as LLMs or large language models or generative AI are just a more advanced implementation or mimicking of the same.
So, how do you think, Shreyas, the Gen Z will shape the future of AI differently than the Gen X or the millennials?
See, Gen Zs will have a very different approach to life in general, right? Reason for that simply being that although I am also a part of the generation, and I don't know how glad or sad I am of the fact that I am a part of this generation, our access to information, our access to the internet, and our access to technology was at a much younger, much tender age than what was for my previous generations. As a result, our ability to ingest knowledge is far higher than what was of my previous generation as well, right? And that is coming out of purely personal observation.
True.
Right? Because we learn mobiles not because our parents taught us how to use it. We learn to use mobiles out of experimentation.
Correct.
Right? And after all, innovation is the need, necessity is the need for innovation. So that fundamentally, that exposure to digital devices and the internet and mobiles and laptops and all of that will have some significant impact on our intelligence at later stages.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. But are we actually overhyping some of these current trends as we see, such as, agentic AI or missing undercurrents others don't see? Is that something? In fact, I also want to know the kind of your friends or the network that you have, because you're just 18. Do you have in that genre, or whom do you network with?
I have a huge network that I have access to of mentors and interns. I have a lot of people who I train. I have a lot of people who have trained me, right? And I have access to a lot of these dev communities where I have attended various dev conferences and so on and so forth. So I have actually a pretty huge network in terms of software development and general software, right? But from what I see, to answer your question, the current trends on agentic AI, okay, overhyping it, yes, it is overhyped. It is way overhyped, but it is also for a reason, right? At the rate at which AI is advancing in today's day and age, every 2 weeks when I wake up and I see my phone for some technical update, I will have some red teaming invite from somebody who is about to release a new model, right? Which will be surpassing some frontier of advanced AI, what we call SOTA, state of the art, right? So because of that, agentic AI, what might seem overhyped to you is actually pretty, to say, legitimate in some way, right? Because at the speed at which it is growing, the hype will soon turn into reality. It is not very far away.
Yeah. So which everyday problem, Shreyas, do you think AI will solve probably, and next? In fact, that will actually blow our minds.
See, I'll tell you this, right? When I started Superlative AI, and what we're building is a product called City Insider, right? Our fundamental goal was, of course, to begin with, guide people around the city and then reduce menial tasks of life. But as a larger goal and larger vision is to stop people from doing menial tasks. As in, see, today I have to set an alarm before I sleep. I have to ensure that my phone is on charge. I have to wake up, right? Ensuring, and then switch off that alarm, and then I'm late, and then I go take a bath, leave for the office, book a cab. There's so many digital interactions that occur, order groceries as an example, right? Which are, for lack of better words, fragmented.
Yeah.
right? And all of these interactions do not really require human brain power. That is a waste of human, that is a waste of human potential, right? So one of the things that we are doing is we are using agentic AI to automate a significant part of it, right? Wherein the AI says, you know what, you already slept quite late. I'm setting your alarm quite late in the morning, but you will be late. I know that. And the moment you wake up, it set multiple timers that you have to take a bath and be back in 5 minutes. If not, the alarm will keep ringing, so on and so forth, right? In a way to automate a major chunk of your life, such that you can focus on tasks that are actually necessary.
Okay, right. I'm really overwhelmed, and I'm really looking forward to these solutions in life, where I make sure that I really reach on time on the airport, making sure that there's this long queue. You have to cross the security, catch the flight, and actually land. So there's a lot to happen, guys, through this space of the Karmine Kompass, and lot to hear. But my next question, Shreyas, is on where deep tech actually meets real business, right? So what are the kind of real world cases where or use cases where blockchain plus AI, can actually create business value, not just hype?
So what do you want me to start with, blockchain or AI? Because they are two very, very, very different fields.
Okay, let's start off with AI and then we go. So let's go by the A first and then the B.
All right. So with respect to AI, right, what we are not looking at, or what is very underhyped, is innovations in biology, right? If you know Demis Hassabis, the founder of DeepMind, which was eventually acquired by Google, right? He is a Nobel laureate today because of a model called AlphaMind, and they had a whole series of it, right? And Gemini is also one of their offerings, but the more important one is there is a model that is what they got the Nobel Prize on. I'm not able to recollect the name exactly, but it basically helps you with genetics. So the most important impact that I think that people are not seeing in AI is, now I am genetically allergic to certain things. I am genetically, susceptible to certain things. I am also having a genetic advantage towards certain things. If an AI model can actually analyze my genetics and give me medicines based on that, right? That itself is a huge leap that human doctors could never do, right? Vaccine research, medical research would all be accelerated by significant margins thanks to AI. That is one part that will have one industry that will have a very significant impact of AI, right? And now, if you know the part, there was a innovation by a Japanese research lab where they blocked out a certain gene in humans, and that caused rather in rats, right? And that caused them to regrow teeth. How could you know that without using such advanced AI and all these technologies, right?
Absolutely.
So AI is going to have a very significant impact in the way we perceive our physical and mental state and well-being to be, right? If you look at even Neuralink and all of these upcoming brain-computer interface projects, they also require AI to read your brain patterns and analyze and understand what you're thinking for it to then go and implement, right? So what we're looking at, if you look at 2050, 2060, is a very different, very, very different world from what we are looking at today, where perhaps I could be sleeping and driving my car at the same time.
Wow. Perfect. And what about blockchain?
See, blockchain is a way to store data, right?
Yeah.
Fiscal transactions, banking, all of these sectors will be significantly revolutionized by blockchain, right? Be it in transaction processing speed, be it in international transfers. Now, if I do a wire transfer, it will take 3 to 5 days to properly go from my account and reach your account and all the paperwork to go through. With blockchain, it can be a matter of seconds, right? As one of the examples, right? Maintaining paper trails and documentation and fiscal crimes will reduce by significant margin. Blockchain has a very significant impact in anything that requires a long paper trail, because once a record is put on blockchain, it cannot be edited, it cannot be modified, cannot be deleted. And the reason for that is practically, if I want to delete a record of blockchain, I have to delete it across hundreds of millions of computers that are hosting tiny servers for blockchain, right? So that is impossible and frankly inhumane, even if a government wanted to do it, right? So that is where blockchain has an advantage. These are both technologies which are going to have significant impact in our lives as a whole.
What's your take on synthetic data? Is it again underrated, overrated, or is it even essential in the first place?
It is very essential. I'll give you that. It is underrated to a certain extent, and it is not overrated. The reason I say that is,
and maybe if I can intercept here, maybe if you could even explain what exactly is this synthetic data all about.
So synthetic data, I'll explain it in a way that you would understand. Suppose my father was here, right, and he needed to teach me some concept, right? He would explain it to me in a way that I would understand, right?
Yeah.
Would that mean, in a hypothetical example, is that hypothetical example real world data? No, it is something that he made up on the spot.
Correct.
So that I understand that particular concept. That was synthetic data. As a simple example, this is a very crude one,
Yeah.
right? What synthetic data actually is data that is made to mimic actual data, right? Where all the data patterns of actual data are also present in synthetic data, just in a much more amplified manner to get better results quicker, right? So if you were to look at, say, ChatGPT or any of these LLMs, right? What you see, what we call, there are three phases to training an LLM, right? There is the pre-training, and then before that there's data filtration and sorting and a lot of that. I'm not going to go into that part, but the more important part is this pre-training, there's the actual training segment, and then there's post-training, right? Pre-training and the training life cycle is on natural data, because it needs to understand the relationship between letters, words, characters, symbols, and how they are used as a contextual, for lack of better words, a large graph, right? A large graph of interconnected nodes, if that's easy. I'm just giving you a way to visualize, right? And what post-training does, and then there are many processes called alignment, and then there are ways of alignment and so on and so forth, is it uses synthetic data, right? Synthetic data that is meant to create or inflict a bias on certain things. If you're doing something wrong, your mother will keep prodding you that you're doing this wrong. Over time, you'll correct yourself, right? Do that in an accelerated time frame, only possible with synthetic data. When you are an LLM, in the case where we are humans, we are incorrigible to certain extents as well.
So, Shreyas, do you believe AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is again achievable within our lifetime? In fact, not, I would say, my lifetime and then your lifetime, because there's a huge age gap here.
Now that depends on what you would interpret as artificial general intelligence. There are varied interpretations across the industry, right? What OpenAI would consider AGI, Anthropic would not. What Anthropic would consider, Google would not. What Google would consider, I would not.
So on a very generic basis, what's your view?
See, on a very generic basis, or at least I cannot comment on what other people think AGI would be, but I can certainly tell you what I think AGI would be.
Yeah.
To me, AGI is already achieved. And the reason for that is, as humans, once upon a time, there was a Guru Shishya Parampara. And the reason for that was because the unavailability of knowledge. I'll have to learn from a guru, learn with that hands-on experience, that I will retain that knowledge, which is why there's the thing called adhikar, right? The right to use that knowledge, because I'll have complete knowledge. The guru gives it. There's a whole tradition behind it. Yeah. That was one way of learning, because knowledge was not readily available, or what was readily available was not readily interpretable.
Correct.
Right? To me, AGI is already achieved. It is not a far-fetched dream. AI already upstages humans in many fields of life, from creatives to non-creatives, where from math to biology to medicine to even driving. AI is a much safer driver than humans in most cases, because there's no rash driving, there's no emotion associated with it. There are many benefits to it.
No drink and drive too.
No drink and drive too.
So let's talk about ethics, because there's so much of debate around this ethical AI and about the governance and the power around it. We are building something powerful. How do you think about the control, the alignment, and probably the misuse early on?
Now that is a tough question, right? Something that I was expecting. So, see, when an LLM is trained, right, and through its training process, there's a reason we do alignment, because pre-alignment models are very dangerous, right? But the reason for all of that is in unavailability of alignment techniques, where we had not explicitly, or rather where we had not trained the model to align itself to human behavior, right? What it should do, what it should not do. Now you and I as humans grew up, we had a fundamental, we were rooted, because we come from the same cultural background, we were rooted in the fundamentals of our society, right? Similarly, most of you guys will be fundamentally rooted in your fundamental truths of society, right? Which create your morals and which create all of that. For AI, there is no such thing.
Correct.
Right? So the only way you can teach an AI how to be, how to align to human values is through data, right? So now because of how I was grown up, I have a very strict thing. I will not steal. I will not use something that is others, I will not lie, so on and so forth, right? The fundamentals of human life or fundamentals of human morals come from the fact of how you grew up, right? And experience collected in that process, where you got punished, where you learned, where you were rewarded, so on and so forth. Similarly, LLM models are also punished when they give unexpected outputs, rewarded when they give expected outputs, to bring in a sort of expected behavior within the LLM, right? So then there are techniques like GANs and so on and so forth, which is generative adversarial neural networks, and all of those varied techniques that allow you to penalize and reward good behavior and bad behavior, such that you can reinforce a certain behavior within the LLM as a whole.
Okay, but when it comes to ethics or governance, there is this crucial role of the regulators, right? Whatever the regulators are doing. So how should regulators also keep up with this generation of builders, without stifling innovation? That's the key.
AI regulations are necessary. I absolutely agree with you. But how will you enforce it is a big question that even I don't have an answer to. And the reason for that is, all of these papers, what we know as generative AI today is originally originating from one paper called Attention is All You Need, which was published by Google DeepMind in 2016-2017, right? And all research beyond that point that Google did, they mostly open source to the world. To some extent, what OpenAI did, they open source to the world, right? And open source as in not the LLM models as a whole. That is their product. I'm not going to go into that. But the fundamental techniques behind that LLM, that created that LLM, Google has open source. Titans is the most recent paper. I think that was a year ago, right? That they again made it open and available to the public. Even you guys can go and read it if you want to. But my whole point stemming from the fact that either there are two ways to go about it. One, make everything open for everybody. Then there is no caveats with respect to I can create this, you can't create this, and then thus I have a superiority over you, right? Or keep everything under the gap, where you say people have access to models. Before people get access to models, there will be a team of security researchers, or there has to be some kind of a government-oriented regulation on before an LLM gets published. But there is no middle path from my perspective, at least, right? I could be horribly wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. But to me, there is no middle path on this. Either it has to be completely black box or completely white box.
Absolutely.
Although I think the world is moving towards a very white box approach.
Why do you say so?
Reason being, see, we have GPTs. Once upon a time, OpenAI ruled the AI world, right? Then came
your once upon a time is maybe this last 2 years.
Yeah, once upon a time is 3 years ago.
That's Gen Z.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, OpenAI ruled the world, right? And then Anthropic came along. Anthropic was founded by researchers within OpenAI itself, right? Google was the reason why Google did not come in, though I used to tell everybody that Google is going to rule this, and the reason is data dominance, right? The reason why Google did not come in is because Google and OpenAI had a fundamental difference in the way they were approaching LLMs.
Okay.
Google went the BERT way, right? BERT is basically a different way of creating LLMs, and thus published the AI series called BARD.
Yeah.
Right, which was not that great. Against which Gemini went the Transformers way, which was the original Transformers paper that Google had published, right? Okay. Building GPT-1 and then GPT-2 and then GPT-3, GPT 3.5 and GPT-4.
Yeah.
Right. GPT-4 then that was the as good as it gets, state of the art for a very long time, until Anthropic came along and released Claude 2, right? And then they had a very fundamentally different approach, and then Claude 3, and then by that time Google had recovered. It's a very interesting story actually, if you were to go into the depths of it, right? But the whole circle of AI, or what we know as AI dominance and all of that, comes from the fact that there were fundamental differences in approaches, and now they are getting aligned.
Okay. So if you to talk about the future frontiers in this space, right? What are some of the less talked about AI, or even the crypto breakthrough you believe will soon change the way we work?
One of the things will be the Google DeepMind genetics for a Transformers models and genetics thing, right? That most people don't even have not even heard about, right? Demis Hassabis is a Nobel laureate for a reason. He is one of the smartest minds I have known, one of the people that I have looked up to since the last 4 or 5 years, right? His innovations in starting from getting an AI model to play chess and beat people at chess, to now coming up and building the Gemini series of models which are now currently in the state of the art area, Gemini
Yeah.
2.5 Pro, right, is something nothing short of spectacular, right? Because I think what Google has done is very noble. Every single technique that they've used, they might not have open sourced Gemini models, right? But the techniques that they've used to build those Gemini models are mostly known to the public.
Okay.
They are there in research papers. People just बोलते हैं ना, ढूंढने पे भगवान भी मिल जाते हैं, ढूंढने पे ये सब भी मिल जाता है, बस लोग ढूंढते नहीं है.
Interesting. So what's your favorite weird or under researched field where AI could totally disrupt the rules?
Education.
Interesting. Maybe let's talk a lot more about this, because this is future, and again AI is future. And why do you say so?
The reason I say so is fundamentally, see, I come from a background of the ICSE school,
Yeah.
right, that I studied at. And if I were to be asked today that would I hire somebody who had done a BSc or a BTech or an MTech in India, would he be job ready? Absolutely not. Would his job be AI ready? Most certainly. So that is one of my growing worries, that we'll have a whole generation of unemployable people because they have not taught the right skills since a very young age, right? See, AI ushers in an era where knowledge is no more valuable. Understanding or application of knowledge is valuable, right? I do not need to know what is the value of pi. I do not need to know how to calculate the value of pi. I can just ask ChatGPT, right? But I do need to know when to use pi and when not to use pi, as a simple example, right? I do not need to know what is Newton's first, second and third law of motion. I just need to know how to recover from an accident.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? So there is a huge gap between relevant and irrelevant information that is being taught to us, or taught to this generation as well, since a very young age, right? Which is not going to come in any way handy in their future, right? One of the most important skills that I believe is going to be very important, that is going to lay the foundation for what we know as future is communication, right? If I am not able to communicate my interpretation of what I believe to you in a proper, nice manner, you will not understand my point. That is one of the biggest problems with AI, right? Prompt engineering, or as a very rising career choice that you guys know today, will not exist in the next 5 or 10 years, right? If somebody is taking it, please don't. That is a very bad idea. And the reason for that is AI models are growing larger and larger day by day, right? Or rather, instead of saying larger and larger, I'll use more and more intelligent, right? Because of better post-training and better synthetic data and all of those other aspects, right? Because of that, for an AI model to understand your interpretation is going to become a lot easier. But for me to communicate from a human to human would be much more difficult. There is going to come a time where I'll tell an AI to tell you to tell something. As in, I don't know how to communicate my point to you, so I'll tell an AI to communicate my point to you. It is fundamental for inefficiency. So things like communication skills, things like non-verbal, intangible skills will be more valuable, a lot more valuable in tomorrow's day than what we are seeing today.
And what's that one myth that about AI again that frustrates you the most?
That AI will take over the world.
Okay.
You know how in movies there's that, right? That there's a AI that went
Terminator
rogue.
kind of thing.
Yeah. It is not happening. Forget near future, even in the far future, even when I am in the grave, it is not happening.
Okay. And why do you say so? Why are you so convincingly saying so? Because the media projects that there are no jobs in future. In fact, even today there are no jobs. Let's accept the reality. But why do you say so?
It's very simple, right? An AI fundamentally, at the end of the day, is a computer program. It has access to what you give it access to. If you give it access to another computer, it can do what it can do within a computer, just the same amount of things that a human could do with a computer, right? It is up to us as the human to decide when to switch off that AI. Ultimately, if I switch off that computer that is running the AI, electricity is gone, the computer is not running, AI is dead.
Yeah.
When I switch it on, the AI is running. Or to put it even simpler, it is just a very large graph prediction algorithm. Right?
Okay.
There's a million, billion, trillion possibilities, and out of those million, billion, trillion possibilities, the AI is finding the most relevant. So if I said Mary, I start with that, there could be 5 possibilities. Mary, the mother of Jesus. But because of my previous conversation and me speaking like a teenager or like a toddler, the AI would say the most relevant possibilities: Mary had a little lamb.
Yeah.
right?
That's a really well put. Yeah.
So it is basically just a large graph prediction algorithm. It is an algorithm. Don't even call it. And I believe in one very simple law, right? I cannot create something that is better than me. Only biology can create that. I, as a human, cannot with my own two hands do that, right? And fundamental reason for that being that we don't have the capacity to do it. I cannot tell you how I think, no matter how much I try to tell you I think.
Yeah.
We could not figure out how Shakuntala Devi did her math, right?
Correct.
Despite putting her on all sorts of devices that were available during her day, we could not figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? It stems from fundamentally that.
Correct. Absolutely. And where do you see, Shreyas, AI heading? I don't know if it's too long a time or too short a time, but next 5 to 10 years, and what could surprise us?
See, I see AI automating menial tasks of life, right? Like I said, I see AI automating through robots, right? Through automating plumbing, electricals, wiring, the hard tasks that humans are not necessary for. It is just a matter of take this, do this, put it there, finished, right? All such menial tasks that require 4 or 5 instructions, and the human just keeps doing that iteratively in a loop, and AI is far better at doing that already today, right? And AI has more exceptional instruction following capabilities than a human does in today's day and age, right? Maybe not in the physical world, but at least in the digital world it does, right? I could tell my mother to go on Amazon and buy a thing, and she'll call me 10 times. I could tell an AI to do that for her, it will do it in one message, right? So if you translate that into real world abilities, although see there are many constraints on how that would be possible. Practicality is a different thing, and this is something that I'm theorizing, right? But I see that happening in the near future.
And let's talk about human versus machine. So do you think creative fields, like example writing, art, poetry, are these guys threatened, or they will too evolve over a period of time?
See, now there are two aspects to it. Me being a classical musician myself, I can tell you that expression, AI doesn't have feelings. AI doesn't have emotions. AI cannot express. AI can only simulate them, right? The only reason AI does that is again post training. If I tell the AI that, oh, my mother died or my mother passed away, the AI will, oh, I'm so sorry. If you need any help, I'm always there for you. Blah 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 blah. But it is not heartfelt. It is just synthetic.
Yeah.
I spoke to you when your mother died. I said the same exact things. The AI saw a pattern. The AI replicated the same exact things. Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Right. So the fundamentals of what we know as art, which is expression, right, is not going to be present. So AI generated art is going to be a thing. AI generated poetry, prose, even music, right, is going to be a thing, but not to the extent that that creatives will just lose their jobs. AI might be able to make movies, but to make that movie, to tell that AI what to make the movie on, still requires a human. I don't think creative people are going to, okay, there's going to be a significant cut down of jobs, right? Creative people will use AI as an aid. For example, if I had to compose a bandish, today I would probably brainstorm with an AI rather than brainstorm with myself. Doing that in deep meditation, it's much better to do that with an AI.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So AI becomes a good mirror for creatives. It is not going to obliterate that that side of career.
Yeah. And how do you personally use AI tools in your day to day? Have you been using?
I use AI tools a lot. See, I don't believe in wasting brain power in places where I don't need to waste them. For example, research. I use deep research by Gemini or Perplexity or ChatGPT or any one of those who can give me a compiled, detailed report on any topic that I asked for by going through hundreds, if not thousands, of websites. Just for reality's sake, Gemini goes through at max 500 websites and creates a 40-50 page write-up of sorts, which serves as its knowledge base for any questions that I ask it. Right? My point simply being, things like one simple example was research. In coding, almost it's become a daily necessity. It has been at least a week since I've written code myself. It is mostly where I tell the AI to do it. Right? And I'm not telling the AI to build me an app. I'm telling the AI build this part in this way, in such a way that I see. As a human, I have to use my fingers and do all the typing and all of that, and I'll have syntax errors, I'll have stupid human errors, right? The AI is just making that process a lot easier for me, making it efficient. Does that mean I don't require core understanding of the subject? No.
Absolutely no.
No. I need to have a very deep, very strong core understanding of the subject for me to then interact with AI, which is also one more problem of this generation, right? I want to build something. I want to build something really fast. I'm going to use AI and build it. What happens when I need to build something else, or what happens when I need to build on top of it? Nothing is coming out of my knowledge.
Correct. That's the tragic part of it, right?
That is the most tragic part of it.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about it a little later on in this podcast. If AI were a superhero, what would its powers be and its weaknesses also in terms of ideation, in terms of workflow?
That, gentleman, is limitless. It's like asking if my brain were a superhero, what would its power and abilities be, right? So that is not a question
To be
fathomable.
first.
No,
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, it is a very क्या बोलते हैं, vague answer that I'll have to give you. That will not be effective.
Yeah, is it the कहना क्या चाहते हो moment?
This is very much a कहना क्या चाहते हो moment. Okay. The reason simply being that AI personified as a superhero is basically if you know the Kannada word, there's a Kannada word called Sarvajna, right? Or maybe, yeah, it's in Sanskrit as well. Sarvajna is somebody who knows everything, right? So in Kannada there are various riddles, right? Where only you know it, Sarvajna is where it ends, right? So my point was simply that AI is just like that Sarvajna that was imagined in Once Upon a Time's literature, which knows everything in existence,
Yeah.
which has access to everything or rather, which has access to all knowledge in existence, right? How we make use of that knowledge is up to us, but we have access to all of that knowledge.
Absolutely. And basically, if you could build a personal AI, probably you're doing so, that runs your life like a co-pilot, right? What would it do?
I think you're talking about my startup there.
Probably. Tell us a little more about your startup.
So Superlative AI is basically we intend to do LLM engineering, right? Where we are building applications using large language models in a way that was not thought of before, right? So we are starting off with a product called City Insider, which will be launched in coming months, right? Which is basically, I need to be somewhere, right? I'm going to ask City Insider. I am in, for example, I was in HSR today, right? I need to come to Indranagar to the studio. So I could just ask the AI, what is the best way I could get to it? It'll go and say network metro pe itna time lagega. It'll take so much time. I have to do so many things. If I take a bike ride, it'll be so much. If I take a cab, it'll be so much. It'll do all that comparison, right? In a matter of 30 or 40 seconds, it can accordingly do a cost comparison also, on which will cost me less and make me reach faster, and then give me the final result, right? It saved me at least 10-15 minutes, right? And my cost with using City Insider was 1 minute, right? And one of the other things that we are pioneering on City Insider is we do not want to charge people for access to AI models.
Okay.
So from day one, we built our infrastructure in such a way that we can make it as cheap as possible for us, as well as make it as cheap as possible for the end consumer.
Okay.
Right? Where, how do I put it? See, LLMs are a fundamental need of life. It will be a fundamental need of life tomorrow. Just like internet is a fundamental need of life today.
Yeah.
Right? So we do not want to have to tell the user, hey, you didn't pay us, so we don't want to give you access to that. Right? We might not have the most frontier cutting edge models, but then we'll still have models that will get your job done. That may be anything, right? That will not be the state of the art, but that will still be good enough to do that.
Right.
So what we envision as a future for our company is where we are automating every single menial aspect of your life, right? From planning schedules to going places to doing things, right? Anything that requires any sort of digital interaction, City Insider should be able to do it for you. Simple.
Wonderful. Absolutely. There's one thing that I wanted to talk to you, and you did mention that a little while earlier, that if you are in India, there are certain limitations when it comes to the access to information on AI, or even getting to know more about AI. And I guess that's the reality, and that's probably a lot of people also globally also saying that AI, when it comes to India, it has certain limitations when you have talent, right? How do we bridge this gap?
The reason why AI is not why is AI not widely taught in schools? One, even if you look at US scale, there's a lack of AI expertise, a very, very significant major lack of AI expertise. Forget India, even in the US, right? In India, if I might say, there may be at max 100, 200, 300 people. In the US, they may be in the tens of thousands, or maybe in a around that range, right? Because people who are working on cutting edge research will be delved into cutting edge research. They are not going to come out and do charity trainings and all of that, right? And the only way you get to them is by being just as big of a nerd as they are, which is not a bad thing, which is a really good thing as a matter of fact.
So when did you first or your last go, wow, AI just did it? That kind of a moment, was that, what was your personal Black Mirror moment?
There was a time I was working on a very simple, or a rather very, very interesting problem. There are things called genetic algorithms, right? And I needed to build a very simple algorithm for creating timetables. It was an assignment that one of my colleagues had given me as a learning assignment. And I said, you know what, I could learn this concept and I could waste 4 or 5 days, or I could just try a shortcut. And I asked the AI, that point of time it was GPT 3.5, and it took me a day of continuous messaging and saying, oh, you know what, you did this wrong, I'm getting this error, blah, 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 blah. But it got it right. It used Ramanujan's original formula and then based off of that built timetables, and it worked.
So what's your go-to AI tool right now?
Please note, this is not sponsored, but I would agree, I would say Gemini.
Okay, interesting. Your coolest build you've seen in the last 3 months? Coolest build on AI, tool probably.
Devin.
Okay.
Although Devin was very overhyped, you know what, I'll change that answer. I'd say Suno.ai.
Okay, interesting. Why so?
They built the first text to voice, truly like a model that has got really good quality with respect to creating music. And they have taken certain approaches that are not really known to the industry, right? So that was something that was very interesting to me. In AI creating music, speaking in a natural way, with the understanding of rhythm and an understanding of swar, or tone, right, is a very hard thing to achieve.
Yeah, and especially since you have that knowledge of industry music, of course, connecting to that industry, I'm sure was definitely. When it comes to blockchain, is it a broken dream or still really a revolution?
It is really a revolution, but it is, see, hype replaces hype. Once upon a time, during the Bitcoin rallies, there was massive amount of hype for blockchain. Now, thanks to GPT-3, GPT-4, Claude, and everybody releasing models every third week, there is massive hype in AI, right? Does that mean that what was being researched is a dead end? Definitely not. Even in AI, there are underdogs, right? So, no, I don't believe blockchain is at its wits end. Blockchain has implications and rather advantages that it puts on human society as a whole, that is going to fundamentally change the way we interact with certain things like banking systems, right? But it needs to be implemented and accepted with open arms, which is not happening. And the reason for that is blockchain is decentralized. See, in the case of an economy, right, RBI controls the flow of money, period. If RBI says this note is gone, this note is gone.
Simple.
They did that with demonetization.
Correct.
Right? In blockchain, you can't do that. In blockchain, RBI cannot control where money is going, whether it's going in India, whether it's international. You can't do any of that. Right? It is an open network. Anybody can build a wallet and be a part of it. Right? So, because of that, and because with US dollar, US could do that, because US dollar is a freely convertible currency. With the Indian rupee, they can't, because the rupee would depreciate in value significantly if that happens.
Absolutely. We're almost the end of our podcast. We do have a rapid fire round. But before that, there's one question I have for you. And I have to make sure I have to ask you this question. Do you know that you're still 18?
There are times I do forget that.
So if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing, Shreyas?
See, before I stepped into the world of AI and all of that, I had a very, very huge, I was a huge nerd for ships and planes, especially aircraft carriers.
Rightly so at the age, right?
Rightly so. So it was my dream to become a shipbuilder.
Okay.
And which was very unusual for most people. But I found those vessels to be very interesting. As a matter of fact, there was a show, or rather, where in the Karwar naval base, which is very close by, they had INS Virat, which is an aircraft carrier, open there, and I had to go there 3 times for visits, right? But then there were long queues, so I went there thrice and ensured that I was able to see it. And so I was a huge nerd for aircraft carriers.
Wonderful. Let's get on to the rapid fire. I'm not too sure if it's the right age to even ask these questions, but Try marte hain. A core value that you won't compromise. I will always say at 18.
Do I need to answer that quickly?
No, you can just say so anytime.
Honesty.
Wonderful. One book that has really changed how you think.
Homo sapiens?
Interesting. A daily habit that you swear by.
A reflection.
Any hobby or sport, and that's very interesting because you're just 18. What makes you a better professional even at an age like 18?
Classical music, which keeps me calm, and then badminton, which is, of course, it has its own benefits. I'm not going to go into that.
Wonderful. One prediction for this industry in 2030?
It is going to certainly take over in major ways. It's going to render many industries irrelevant. But from what I see as a prediction, I'll say what we know as staffing jobs will mostly be gone.
Okay. What's your personal North Star metric? And when I say so, it means what is it that you want to achieve, a certain phase in life?
I want to amass a lot of knowledge and then share it out to the world and then pass off happily.
I can imagine that at age 18, this is it. So I can't imagine what's next. So that's really amazing, Shreyas. One word your team or your friends or your colleagues, would use to describe you?
Disciplined but friendly.
Disciplined but friendly. Okay, I think that's that thin line, gray area. A myth about your industry, the AI industry, that you'd like to debunk?
That it'll take over the world. As in, like the Terminator thing, that's not going to happen.
Okay, that's really hopeful and really positive, something to look forward to. I don't know if this question even applies to you, but I think the kind of age you are in and at the way you are at, the career that you are in, I think this still has an answer from you. One skill leaders will need most over the next decade?
Communication. If I'm not able to convey my point to you the way I understand it, there is no point of me talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? Fundamentally. So communication as a skill is going to be very, very valuable in the future.
Shreyas Chandavarkar, absolutely fantastic having a conversation with you. And it's the theme of our podcast, the Karmine Kompass, is all about pivotal conversations. And I can't be more happier than this to have met you, got connected, and we all speak to you on this amazing platform. Thank you so much, Shreyas, for being with us on this podcast.